in my office, and I had this lady come to see me with a problem. She was an older woman, and she had this problem. Anyway, I talked to her, and then suddenly she sees behind me in my office a picture of Sri Swami Sotogrande. She said, "Oh, I met him." And I said, "Really? It's the first time I'm meeting you. When did you meet him? Did you come to one of his first talks in 1989? I mean, this was like 2003, when after he had passed away. He passed away in 2002. So I said, "Oh, he came 3 times to Gibraltar. You probably came to one of the talks." She goes, "No, I didn't even know he came to Gibraltar to do talks here." I said, "Oh, did you see him in Marbella then?" "I didn't know he did a talk in Marbella." "So where did you see him? Because it's the first time I'm meeting you." And she goes, "He came to my shop." And I said, "Impossible." She said, "What do you mean impossible?" And I said, "Because I was looking after him all 3 trips. And anywhere he went in Gibraltar, when he went out to the streets or anywhere, it was me who took him. So, and I very clearly know, unless I've got a bad memory, where's your shop?" She said, "Oh, it's next to the laundrette in the back streets, as I never took him there." And I said, "What year did you meet him?" "To 1986, I can tell you the exact time and date." I said, "He wasn't here in 1986. His first trip was 1989. She said, "No, Nalanie, I'll describe how he looked. He's tall, he's, and when he walks, he looks like he's floating." And she said, and I said, "Yes." And he said, "Long orange robes down to the floor." I said, "Okay, so you could have seen that from what happened?" She said to me, "Well, he came into, I was having a really bad Saturday. It was a Saturday afternoon, and my business was going to go bust. And I didn't know what to do, and I just started praying and praying and praying and asking for a way forward. And all of a sudden, this guy," she goes, I didn't know who he was, "walks in and hands me a yellow rose and say, 'You will always be safe.' And next thing I know, he goes out." She said, "I was so shocked. I went out to run after him to find out who he was, but he disappeared." So I had a laugh, because a few years before, my master came to me, and we talked about roses, and I had yellow roses in my altar. And I said, "Gurudev, I don't know why, I always love yellow roses." And he said, "Me too." So there was, some kind of connection there. But she still insists, "Well, I know after that, after he passed, he left the body, many people have come to me and told me they actually saw him when he wasn't actually there. People from Australia, so many. I mean, there's countless stories of people who've seen him in their homes, sit and talk to him, and he was already dead. They didn't know he had died. So, because he had so many disciples all over the world, he talked in so many countries, but some people maybe just came to one talk and never saw him again, and they would get a visit. So, it's quite incredible. So that's the story of the yellow rose. So every time I buy yellow roses, I think of him and offer it to the altar I have. So that's the story of yellow rose.
Mataji was another one who got a visit.
Yes. Mataji, did you see all of you see Mataji when she came here? She's, you saw her. When she came, she's a monk who's about 83. She used to be a nun. A nun turned into a monk, a swami. And the reason why she did that was when she was very, very young. 7 years old, she said, right? Was it 7 or 8, Ole, when she was playing in her garden, and she saw him when she was young, at the age he was when she met him many years later, and he was her friend. He used to come and talk to her and visit with her. She didn't know who he was, and then he would disappear. She'd tell her parents, but you know what parents are like with children. So many years later, she becomes a nun. And one of the nuns was saying that there's this wonderful Swami coming to New York, and he's talking about truth is wrong, paths are many. Would you like to come and see him? And she went, and she saw him the same way he had looked 30 years prior, or 40 years prior. So you just don't know, right? And then that's when she made the big shift. She had seen into the future who was going to be her master. So there are people that have these visions, you know, and I remember when my master was alive, I used to tell him, how come people have all these visions and I don't? It's not fair. I said, it's not fair. I said, well, you don't appear to me like this. When he was alive, that's when he was in Hong Kong. And he laughed. He said, but Nalanie, why would you want to see me like that? And I said, because I want it. And he laughed again. I said, I want to have that experience. And then he said, okay then. I said, promise me. Promise me you will appear to me. He said, he laughed and he promised, right? So when he passed away, I was really, really upset. I said, Gurudev, you died now and you haven't traveled distances to see me. Will you come and see me now? You know, because I said, you made a promise. That particular trip, when I was arguing with him, the next day I was giving a talk on how to overcome sorrow after you leave a master. And many of his disciples came to this talk. And it actually happened to be in my sister's house, on the 18th floor of a building, because that's where she lived. Now, beyond the 18th floor, there was like nothing. It was high up in the mountains, you know, looking down in Hong Kong, down at the peak and everything. So she always has this photograph next to me when I talk, a lot big one, right? So somebody was there and took some photographs. So I go home. The next day, this American lady who was at the talk calls me. I have something to show you. So she said, no, it's really important, I have to show it to you. So I said, please come to my mother's house, that's where I'm staying. So she came for tea and she had this picture blown up for me of myself, the picture of my master, and my sister. And above my head, and then behind me is just curtain, and then dark skies. There's no lights because, like I said, it's on the 18th floor. And no mirror to reflect the flashlight. Anyway, it wasn't a flashlight. It was a huge, beautiful shape like this. You know, you see one of those, not a candle shape, but perfect on all sides, and rays coming up right on the center of my head. Right in the center of my head. And I said, okay, he kept his promise. He visited me as light. Because that's the only thing. And she took it to a few experts to ask them if it was, you know, and they were amazed by the photograph. I have it somewhere. For years I put it on my pegboard so that I wouldn't forget that I was never alone, that the light was always with me. And that was his teaching to all of us. His teaching to all of us was, okay, use me as your master as long as you can. You know, use me as a crutch. But remember, the job is to find the light within, the guru within you, the light within you. Remember the word guru means remover of darkness. Anything that removes your darkness and brings you light becomes your guru. And he said, use me as long as you can, but then once you've got to find the light within yourself. Everyone has the light within themselves. And so I think in this new generation, this is what we are meant to do. But you know, through many, many generations, we are coming into very new times. Up to this point, are you very hot? Should we open a window? You're very warm. You sure? Are you okay? Does anybody want a window opened?
Yes, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I feel somebody's feeling warm. Thank you, Shanti. If it gets too blowy, will you let me know?
Yeah.
Yeah? And then we will just close it up. So, okay, thank you. What was I talking about?
Light within and this generation.
Yeah, this generation. Haven't you noticed there's a change? There's a change. There's a change in the sense that more and more people are becoming responsible to awaken the light within themselves. You know, more and more people are becoming responsible. We have lost touch with the light in our lives. We have lost touch with our spirituality. We have lost touch because the last 200, 300 generations have been, you know, we've been into the age of materialism, you know, the age of technology. And we've been taught to look so much outside, but it hasn't made people any happier. People are not happier. In fact, they're worse than ever. You know, we have progressed, I was talking the other day, in many, many ways. We have become so much better in the sense of, you know, women's rights, human rights, all that is a lot better. But there is such a huge element of community missing, such a huge element of service, you know. All the service that we used to have when we were young, even when we used to go on a flight, right? And they used to serve you with such love. Now it's one stone which do. You have to pay for it, you know. Nobody wants to give more than they can. And in the olden days, my father was telling me when he was brought up and they were so poor, you know, he would go out and work at the age of 12, and whatever he would bring home, a sack of rice, he'd take to his mother, and he had 6 siblings, and they would cook this big bowl of rice, and then his mother would go out to the streets and call all the people that weren't fed that day, and they all would share that pot of food, not only with the 8 siblings, so everybody used to eat this little, but everybody ate. Nowadays, oh no, I'm not going to share this, and it's going to be too expensive. So we've lost also the feeling of abundance. And of course, I have to tell you the story that, you know, they gave whatever they had, and my father became very wealthy in the end, extremely wealthy. And he still kept on giving throughout his lifetime. When he passed away, everything was given away, 0 in his bank account. He had made sure everything was all right, all the charities were all right, and they are still today getting interest from the money he's left for all the different charities. He doesn't give them a lump sum. He's smart, huh? So if I give a lump sum, they spend and gone. And he's done that with all his daughters as well. He gives us every month a certain amount. Enough to live, not enough to be greedy. Don't you think it's wonderful? It's perfect. It's such smart planning, you know? Such smart planning. And, you know, and the generosity of giving, and the more you give and the more you are not frightened of giving, really the law of nature is that you receive. But that's not only with material things, it's with everything in your life, yourself, your time, your love. You know, for me, your love is more important than anything else. Your love, then your time, then your space, you know, your heart. These are things that mean so much to people. And these are the things we're restraining more and more and more because we don't want to get hurt. And the whole of the Bhagavagita is, the whole of chapter 4, the Yoga of Renunciation, is exactly that. The whole chapter tells you, it repeats again and again and again. When you learn to give without expectation, or do anything in your life, anything you set out to do without expectation of anything in return, you become rich. Why? Because you maintain your peace. If you really want peace, we literally serve with a smile, but don't expect to get it back. But you know, I have seen in my life that the law of abundance looks after you when you do that, because you're flowing with it. You know, how many times I've heard from so many people they're really going broke, and they're still positive and they still share whatever they have. Where they expect to get finance from, they will never get. It's from somebody who was really strange, or somebody who suddenly died that they didn't even know of, or a friend, you know, an acquaintance will meet them and give them some money or give them an opportunity. I've heard this so many times, and it's happened to me so many times. Look here, this yoga center. Where did the money come from? My uncle. But have I done anything for my uncle? No. Why would he give it to me? Do you see? I mean, I love him. He's my uncle. He loves me. I'm his niece. But how many hours have I spent with him in my lifetime? Very little. Excuse me, I got a bit of tickle in my throat. Forgive me. I had a bad cold last weekend, and Janaki here gave me some reflexology, and it got better, but it's still a little tickle. So we never know where it comes from. Suddenly he says, I want to build a yoga hall for you. I didn't ask. I didn't ask. I said, I'll just work hard, give classes every day, collect donation, 4 or 5 years we'll build a center. I got it within 2 weeks. 2 weeks of buying this place. You tell me the law of abundance, does it work or not? Gibraltar Yoga Center, same. The government gave us the place, rent £120 a year. That's our rent. But it was a shell, it was a concrete shell. So couldn't afford an architect, so I actually did the drawings myself. Don't know where I got that from, but I did not a bad job. And suddenly people I didn't know, my husband's friends who never came to yoga, suddenly come to me and say, oh Nalanie, what are you doing with your life? Oh, we're building the center. Here's a donation, £1,000. Somebody else, a stranger comes in. Nobody has anything to do with yoga. Here's another £3,000. How does it work? I have no idea. I can't explain it. All I know is exactly what the Bhagavagita says. And all the real spiritual books say. When you love with all your heart and you want to serve for the betterment of humankind, not only yourself, it has to benefit you as yourself. If I wasn't happy doing this, forget it, I won't be doing it. Do you see? It has to be both ways. Without you, I won't be here. So who's the teacher and who's the student? Really, it's just a play in life. But whatever you do in life, when it is for the better, for the advancement of the human being, everything will be given to you that you need. But you mustn't expect anything in return from the people you work with, because you will definitely be disappointed, right? All of you know this, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here, because you've gone through all this in your own life. Many people you have loved the most in your life are the ones that have hurt you the most. And maybe strangers or somebody, a random person talking to you suddenly is the one that has helped you out of a problem the most. Not even your best friend or somebody. Haven't you seen this in your life? It happens over and over and over again. So never fear. Because, when we talk about the yoga of renunciation, people think it's, we talked about it last week, we have to give up something in order to feel this divine energy. You don't have to give up anything but your selfishness. You don't have to give up anything but your greed. You don't have to give up anything but your fear, your guilt, and your worry. And those things are good to give up, don't you think? They're the best things, and yet we hold on to our fear, we hold on to our guilt, and we hold on to our worry. The way I learned to get out of those fears was simply by practice. I had two role models, my father and my guru. My father lived in the normal world and he went out for parties, he had the best of everything, and he gave the best of what he had. I had my master, who worked in the world as a monk. He still had the best of everything, and he gave the best of everything. And I had two examples. I did not see the difference. One went out as a spiritual master, the other one went out as a spiritual human being. My father touched everybody he met. My guru touched everybody he met. Very interesting to watch. So it wasn't to do with the money or no money, because it came both ways. It came to do with the faith and the energy that these two people produced in their life. The big love they had. And they renounced their personal comfort. I mean, I look at my father, he said he worked at the age of 12. Never went to proper school. He could never write English when he died. His English was broken. And yet he got a doctorate, yet he was knighted for all the good work he has done. Incredible, isn't it? And he said to me, he said, you know, he said, Nalanie, I had to work because I wanted all my brothers and my 2 sisters to have the best. He said, if I didn't have it, if I could work and my other brother, my second brother, he said, my second brother's the smartest of all of us. He's the smartest. He will have the brain to take us to a new dimension. So if I educate him, he will look after the rest of the family. And that's how they've been living all these years. 6 brothers in 1 home. They still live like that. Now 3 have gone. It's hard to find in this world. And it shows, united you stand, divided you fall. And that's the interesting. And just watch it. Watch life. Watch people. People who argue a lot regularly and fight, everything will start dissipating, leaving you in one way or the other. Just watch it. And people who live in love and honesty and goodness, there's a warmth around them. There's a gaining, there's a peace, there is a joy around them. There's a gathering, and it feels so rich, this gathering. I mean, what else can we do with our lives, right? And you think at the end of the day, we're all going to die. So the practice that I used to use a lot in my life in the early days, because I was so attached to everything, especially my husband. Why didn't he tell me he loved me every day? He wouldn't. In fact, he rarely did till I think 6 weeks before he died. And then it was too much for me, as I'm not used to it now. This is scary. I got used to you not saying you love me. I know you love me beyond words. And now I don't need to hear it, you know? And then he started saying it. At least he did it right at the end. So I told men, don't wait till the end. You know? I told all my friends after my husband passed, love each other, say how much you love each other, as much as you can while you're living. Say it, because it opens your heart too, both sides. And nowadays women also don't like to say I love you. Why should I don't want to be the weaker one. If your heart gets broken, it gets broken. Better to have loved fully and completely for a short time than to have this halfway thing that's neither here and there. Nobody's arguing my ego, your ego competition. At least if you really fully enjoy it, you can say, for once in my life I had a really beautiful relationship. You know, as Shakespeare says, better to love and get lost than never to have loved at all. And when you say it, you feel good, you feel happy. You know, so that's what I tell many of the couples that I meet. Do it while you're in love, because it's a nice thing to be with a partner. It's a nice thing to have fun. Enjoy it, laugh on the streets. You know, hold hands when you can. I'm scared, maybe they won't like it. Why are you with this person then if you are scared? You should be with a person because you're comfortable, right? Why would you want to be with someone that you fear or you're not comfortable with? So what I did was, when I learnt yoga, I decided that since I had the romantic character, I would be as romantic as I possibly could. And then irrelevant whether he was or not. But of course, if one becomes romantic, after a period of time, the other one has to respond. Correct? So it's letting go, even you see how subtle it is, letting go every expectation. So what I learned was that one of my first practices, to just show you this, was Valentine's Day. I must have been 33 when I started on this path, 1 year of meditation, 34 years old. I always used to get very upset on Valentine's Day, like a spoiled brat. never get me any roses, you don't remember Valentine's Day, you know, da-da-da, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, such a big day. He said, for me, Valentine's Day means nothing. And then, so, get in a bad mood all day, argue with him all day. Can you imagine how childish? And then, when I started yoga, and I thought, the next year I went Valentine's Day. Not his nature. He doesn't like Valentine's Day. He doesn't even understand it. I come from a family that used to, Valentine's Day. He comes from a family, no big deal. Okay, so I'll enjoy Valentine's Day. So I went out to I remember we used to work together in the same shop. So I told him, you go to work first. And then I went to the flower shop and I got the biggest, most beautiful one rose I could ever find. So I walked into my shop to work in front of all this stuff. And I said, sweetheart, happy Valentine's Day. I love you. In front of everybody. And he goes, but I didn't get you anything. I said, but I don't want anything. Do you know after that? Every single Valentine's Day I got roses. It's odd how that happens. Isn't it? It's odd. When you finally say, okay, I really don't want it anymore, you get it. But I really meant it. It wasn't pretending, and I really didn't think he would give it to me. I really just realized this is my nature, this is who I am, and this is who he is. You know, there is a poem that I used to have on my wall when I was a young girl during the hippie era. The poem was, you know, I am not in this world to live up to your expectations. You are not in this world to live up to mine. You are you and I am I. And if by chance we meet, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I bought that poster and I remember I had it in my door and it really went in, huh? But I didn't live it. I thought, oh, what a beautiful saying. But when it came to life, you better be what I want you to be. Otherwise you've had it. I don't love you anymore. And that was the renunciation, you know, the non-attachment to my expectation, you know, of what things should be. It was a real growth period. It was not easy. It's not an easy period because you're learning about you and you're learning about someone else and you're learning how to adapt, adjust and accommodate to these new visions. But what you do see with the practice of meditation and what do you see with the practice of this yoga sciences? What does renunciation mean? What does renunciation mean? What is real renunciation? I have seen people who say, oh, I've renounced everything to find my peace. They leave their families, they leave their homes, they leave their jobs. They live off everybody else. And I look, that's not very honorable. That's not very honorable. If you're capable of making your own living, oh, I'm serving God, you know. Not a monk, you're not doing anything. You're just going from ashram to ashram to ashram to ashram, holy place, wherever you are fed. Oh, I'm looking for God. At least I didn't feel that was honorable. I think you do your search for however long you do it, 1 year, 1.5 years. After that, take responsibility for your own life. Not to live off other people. So I didn't think that was the way. And so I thought, how do you renounce when we have families, we have people to look after? How can you say, I'm just going to walk away from it all? And then I realized the renunciation was not external. It was internal. But how could I renounce? Because when you take away some of these emotions, there's nothing left there. So what do you know, it's almost like when you get off drugs, you need something else, right? And they say, you know, for Alcoholic Anonymous, they say, you know that God is there first for you, right? And this is basically the same in yoga. Look for your higher self, or what you call God, or what you call the Lord, or Jesus, or Moses, whatever you want, or Shiva, irrelevant. Hang on to that peace. When you have something to hold on to. And my master, and I keep repeating this over and over and over again, my master made it very simple for me. He said, make peace your God. And that was simple, because it wasn't complicated. It wasn't wrong or right anymore. It wasn't negative or positive. It was peace. And that was the practice, finding out what gave me peace and what didn't. And this is what you have to know about yourself very, very clearly. What takes away your peace? And what gives you peace? Now, what takes away your peace is harder because you always have to face it all the time. So I learned the quick method was hold on to what gave me peace and do that more. So service gave me peace, but it was a double-edged sword. I also learned rejection. You do something for people and they'll stab you in the back. That was good. Then I started to see that's the practice. I got upset by that. So I'm attached to the reaction. Right? So next step, I have to learn just to keep my peace without any expectations. I am doing it for God. And where is God? Everywhere. I read in all the scriptures, I start studying. The Lord of love, no larger than the thumb, lives in the hearts of all. The Lord of love, no larger than the thumb, lives in the hearts of all. Deep in the hearts of all, live the light of all lights. And I see repetition, 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 repetition. And then I see in the Bible, Moses asks God when he sees him, who are you? And he answers, I am that I am. And then our master said, how do you introduce yourself? Who is the I am? Will you introduce yourself? I am Nalanie. Who is the I am that Nalanie belongs to? And then I thought, interesting. But hard to grasp. And then by constant repetition of many, many simple mantras like, I'm not this body, like Master Shivananda, master of my master, used to say, he's sitting there behind you, in the black and white photograph, that's Master Shivananda. He used to say, I'm not this, tell all his students to sing, I'm not this body, I'm not this my mortal self, I am. I'm not this body, I'm not this my mortal self, I am. And he said, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. All the time, and it's the absolute truth. The body is on loan to you for a short time. It is the absolute truth. I'm really not this body. I'm really not this mind. I am who I am. I am came into this body. And I keep saying, even my name wasn't chosen by me. I didn't choose my name. And when I die, when my body dies, I won't be cremating me. Somebody else will be doing it. Dump me into the kiln and burn. So who am I? And so when you realize you're much more than what you think and you're connected with this great global energy, then life takes on another image. Then you start getting excited about this. It becomes a drug. I want to know what that energy is. And as you start to want to know and you start to become curious, detachment comes naturally. Why? Because you're attaching to something that is bringing you a lot of excitement, a lot of peace, a lot of study, a lot of learning about who you are and what you are, and what is this relationship between what we call God and man. How do we experience it? How do we understand it? Pardon? Did somebody say something? Yeah. You said?
No, he just coughed.
Oh, okay. How do we experience it? How do we know it? I want to experience this. I want to know this. And then what happens if you attach to something that is higher? So now you're doing the same work, but it doesn't matter anymore what people do. Because you know what? You start to see that oneness is really in them. So they do those negative actions to teach you to learn non-attachment. How interesting. Then you see a perfect global plan that everything that happens in your life You are so loved, so extremely loved, that all of the universe works to teach you to bring out your best. Now it's up to you whether you want to see it or you don't. Some people say, oh, what's suffering? What's suffering? I say, wow, is it suffering or is it a growth spurt? I'm going to die anyway, right? That's the end result of my life, correct? In all our lives. So let me focus on what's going to happen to me afterwards. Who am I? What substance am I? You know, what kind of feeling do I have? And then when you do that kind of work, when you connect with that, when you renounce all these kind of petty things, oh, he did that, or she did that, or this happened today, and that, and all the gossip in the hospital, yeah, you listen to it. You have to live in the world. So you listen one ear, out the other ear. You learn discrimination. You learn to be clear, clarity, what you want in your life and what you don't. And you decide. You make great decisions that make you very different. And it doesn't matter. You're different. You have only one chance to be different in your body. And you make a decision to live a beautiful life. The life you're meant to live in whichever form or way or job that you have been given. What you're good at. What are you good at? Then you start to perfect it and take it to a highest level. You know, I often tell this story about this musician, one day called me. In those days I was still working, but I was teaching in the yoga in the evening. He called me at my shop. He said, Nalanie, can you see me? And I said, what's going on? So I told my husband, I'm going to see this musician. I think he wanted to have a serious talk. Is it okay? Because I always told my husband everything. Because there's always gossip. See your wife with a man. And it did happen, huh? After half an hour, somebody went to my shop and told my husband, I saw your wife with a man in a coffee shop. People, can you believe it? Anyway, I went to speak to him. Thank God I will say the truth, where I'm going and what I'm doing. And that way there's no misunderstanding ever. And I even say which coffee shop I'm going, so we can come and check. I love truthfulness. It makes you so clear, it makes you so happy. It has no backlash. No backlash. It's wonderful when you're so truthful. Anyway, I sat down with him, and he was a brilliant musician, visiting Gibraltar for a little while. And, we had met, because I also used to do choreography in my young days, and I, did some work for Guys and Dolls on stage. And so he wanted to, so he knew of me. And when we sat down, and he said, Nalanie, all my life, I just, I didn't feel comfortable with the word God. I didn't feel comfortable with the word God. It's created so many wars in the world. But of late, when I'm out there with my music, and I'm in Austria, and I'm this place and that place, more and more and more, when I'm playing, I'm so absorbed in this bliss. I'm so absorbed that I don't feel I'm there anymore. I don't even feel that I'm doing any of it. I don't even feel. I feel there's something making my hands move. Is this God? How lucky that you can find it through your music. How lucky you can find it through your work. Slip upon it. I said, you must have done some very good karmas. And he said, I am in total bliss in meditation when I do that. And he said, the reason why I called you, because I studied some Eastern books. I've read some Eastern books. And it seems to be what I'm feeling. This bliss. We call it samadhi, this total going into one. So it was really quite nice to see that. Huh? And then I remember one doctor that I love dearly, talking with him one time, and then he says to me, people tell me I heal them, because he talks to them. He's the kind of doctor that really cares, And he said, but I don't know. They heal. Just from seeing me, even without medicine. So I said, you're a real doctor then. He said, but Nalanie, you don't understand. I don't do a thing. God does everything. So, the reason why I'm giving you all these stories is because I'm going to skim through chapter 4. And this is basically what it is all saying, the yoga of renunciation. But the words can be quite complicated. So I thought if I filled you in on these little stories, then when we read the slokas quickly, you will totally understand. And then you can relate it to your own life. Because the only importance of the scriptures is of no use. In the Bhagavagita, it says itself, it's no use to you if you don't apply it in your life. No use. And you don't understand it. Just fancy words. So, where did I finish last time, Shanti?
Page 72, you're now up to 8 and 9.
Okay, I'm going to pick a few and just go through them with you. Page 72? Okay, I'm just going to sloka 11 on page 73. A yogi, remember the word yogi, is a person who is constantly in touch with their higher self. They're super conscious. Who am I? What am I? A person who sits and thinks about the soul energy and the spirit energy. A yogi abandons attachment to results. To purify himself further, he still continues to work with the body, mind, intellect, and senses. A yogi abandons attachment to the results. We talked about that. Don't expect anything in return. Just do for the sake of your own good. And to purify himself further. Remember I was telling you of the practices I did. I'm not this body. You continue to work in the world. You don't expect anything in return. You expect, maybe sometimes you may be insulted or told off, or people talk behind your back. That's all part of the deal. You don't worry about it anymore. All right? And he says, but you still have to work with it. Even after you know it, you still have to work with your body, keep the body healthy. And that's why we do Hatha Yoga. And work with your mind, keep it clear, work with your intellect, and work with your senses. Because sometimes we're carried away by our senses, right? Many times people who are overweight tell me, oh my God, the moment I smell food, I can't help it, Nalanie. I just have to eat, And so the addiction is in the mind, but if she can control the senses, learn to control the senses, then she can control the mind and the senses at the same time. So we teach them how to breathe. When she smells the food, I say, exhale quickly. And take your mind to a better place, somewhere else. Tempt it with something higher. The peace that you will feel from not eating. The peace, the joy, the bliss. You might fail the first time, you may fail the second time, the third time you'll love yourself that you didn't eat it. And then slowly the addiction will leave you. So that's that. And many of these slokas are saying the same thing after that. And then I'd like to go down to 15. The Lord, who is omnipresent, does not measure anyone's virtues or vices. Did you hear that? There's no God that measures your virtues or your vices. Oh, I'm being punished, this is why it happened to me. No. The Lord does not. It's everywhere, omnipresent. What does that mean to you, omnipresent? You tell me, what does it mean to you?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Everywhere. If it's everywhere, is it in you? Yes. So you can't even judge you. You have to learn to see your highest self so you don't start criticizing yourself all the time or praising yourself. Either way, all the time. Both ways, you don't judge you. Oh, I'm really good at that. No, self-praise is no praise. I'm really bad at that. Low self-esteem is no good for you. So either way, it doesn't judge. Because inner wisdom is veiled in ignorance. It's only because we don't realize that we have this wisdom inside. People, therefore, are misled and err. Did you hear that? So many of us are misled. And because we are misled, think we are bad, you're good for nothing, you did this, you that, you become that. And then we make mistakes. But it's only because we don't have the knowledge. This is why it's so important to have the knowledge and experience. And more than knowledge is the experience of the times when you feel peace, when you feel joy, when you're comfortable with yourself. And then you know, that makes me feel right in myself. And this surely must be God in me. The days when you feel that bliss. And if you haven't felt it, better experience it while you're alive. Because it's a wonderful feeling. And we have a human mind and a human body to enjoy the bliss of looking out looking out at this earth and just, wow, what a playground. Who said it is in the Garden of Eden? The news? The news only focus on what is negative in the world. We need to change that. Thank God we've got people like Hannah who interview good people. It's true, she has many interesting guests on her program. Very many good people, right? You've heard her program. So there's also the other side of life. And really, if you look at your life, 99% of the people are really good. It's just one bad experience that we keep on forever at it. One bad thing and we'll say on and on and on and on. 100 good things the person does, we don't praise. We're really odd people, don't you think? Really odd. One bad thing happens. Oh, I really had a bad day today. Well, but you had about 60 good days before then. I know people who don't even have one. They stop every day and you go and see them and they're laughing. They appreciate anything you do for them. Everything is a gift. See, we kind of lost our balance. So here it's what it's saying here. And this is really interesting. Those who, 18 on page 74, those who have realized the self, see that same self equally in a humble scholar, a cow, a dog, or a dog eater. Wow. I'd like to read what my master says here. Look at it. It really takes you out of the box, into non-judgment. Such a person has that equal vision. Having equal vision means you don't see anybody low or high. To you, both thief and police officer are equal. You don't see the superficial. The self of the thief is the same self as the police officer. Something is playing the part of the thief, and that same something is playing the part of the police officer. Because the sage is rooted in the self, he or she sees them as the self. So, for the sage, they're equal. But how to love your neighbor as your own self? You have to see yourself in that person. Now, I'd like to stop because there's a lot I'm saying here. And then you go, well, what are you saying? That we should, love the thief and let him go on doing what he's doing? No, it doesn't mean that. And I'll give you a story that my master told. When he was invited in India to give a conference to the police board there, the chief inspector of the police was giving his speech, and he was talking about the thieves and how they should, horrible people, etc., 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 and went on and on and on. And then after his speech, he called my master up to speak. So my master thanked him for his lovely speech and thanked him for doing a great job. And then he said, you're doing a great job. You're protecting the nation. You really are protecting the nation. But let me ask you a question. He said, without the thief, would you have a job? You see, the thief provides a lot of jobs. Without the thief, there'll be no lawyers. Without the lawyers, there'll be no police officers. Without no police officers, there'll be no judge. Without no judge, there's no superintendent. The thief provides a job for everyone. So, you have to make sure the thief is locked up. That is your duty. But realize that thief also has a part to play on this earth. So what happens is you take the emotion out of it. Do you see? Yes, the thief is bad, we need to protect the nation, put him in, but you don't get angry, and we should do this, and we get personal. Do you see? That's the difference. The emotion is taken out, and it's the emotion that makes you angry, that wants you punished. No, don't just punish, lock him up. Let's hit him, let's beat him, let's torture him, like we see nowadays. That's all emotion. There's no need to do that. And that damages the person that does it. Who's better? The thief, the bomber, or the person who does the tortures? We've seen in, Guantanamo Bay. We've seen that. Who's better? They're both equally sick. Who's teaching what whom? And so when you see statements like this in the Gita, but you first read it, it's quite shocking. But then when you hear the stories of life, and then you understand. So when you approach your life and somebody does something wrong to you, you stay away. Or you tell them politely, they should not do this to you. And if they don't understand it, no problem. You go your way, I go my way. Not all the emotionalism, like in all these divorce cases today, it's all like hype and emotion. And I keep asking, but you've lived with this person for 22 years or 16 years or 17 years. You don't like each other anymore. Why don't you split 50-50, go, bye. Why do you torture each other for another 22 years and cause pain? Can't you remember when you loved each other? This is all greed, this is all unnecessary emotion, this is all ego. If you cut the emotion in it, and one party goes, I always say the one who's the yogi should do it, because you're the one who wants the peace. Don't expect the other person, you'll be disappointed. They'll fight back. Say, let's do this logically. They still insist to fight. Even go to the court case logically. No emotion. What is correct for me? What is correct for the children? Do your duty. You must do what is correct. And the other party, don't be too greedy. Ask for what's reasonable. The other person also has to live. Both of you have to live. Oh, I want to clean out what he has. Or, she's wealthy, I want all she has. Oh, how horrible. See, all the emotion, the extra, not necessary. That's what causes all the disasters, all the pain, all the suffering. And then they come and tell me, oh, I don't know why God has done this to me. I go, what? What has God got to do with your temper and your unhappiness? You've created it. You've allowed it. Why? Because you're greedy. You want more than what you deserve. Be fair. Be fair. And then the other party, I've met the other one, I don't want to give this. Why? Your children? That's horrible. That's dishonorable. They are your children. 1 minute you're buying all their clothes and now you just want to give them £10 a month. Oh my God, they're your children. Have you forgotten? You brought them into the world. You have a responsibility. Because you argue with your wife, why are you punishing your children? I'm not punishing my children. What else are you doing? I don't want to give it to her. Because I'm not asking you to. I'm asking to your children, your own children. If you can't give to your own children, Who can you give to? Do you see how the mind becomes so warped? And when I tell them that, they start crying. You're right, my children. Would you want to be them to be beggars in the street? So, there's such warped thinking. But if we could see, okay, the self in everybody, we don't get along. We're very, very different people. Let's have a good handshake and let's be fair about it. And let's both be happy. I want you to be happy. You know what? You're not happy with me? Please be happy with another man and please be happy with another woman. You know how many times I see people separate and then they come and tell me, oh, do you know my boyfriend, my husband or my ex-wife is already with somebody else. I said, so? Aren't you happy for them? Now they'll stop bothering you. But why are they with somebody else? And I look at them shocked. But you didn't want them. You should be happy. Now they won't bother you. They'll be happy. They won't bother you anymore. But they're not happy. I can't understand. I still today find it odd and I get this on a weekly basis. I still find it odd. But why be happy for them? You didn't want them. You were longing to get them out of your life. They're out of your life. And the sooner they find somebody else, the less headache they'll give you. Because they just want to get out of your way. Now they found somebody else. Give you peace. Don't you want your peace? It's almost like they got used to that anger. They got attached to it. So this is the meaning of all this renunciation. Do you see? In modern living. In modern living. But if they could see that probably even before the trouble started, many marriages would have been saved. And if one partner is willing to go for counseling, many marriages would have been saved. Many, many relationships. If people study the scriptures and then they sit down and talk, oh, we're just in greed mode or we're in guilt mode and I feel this strongly, I can't help it. And the other partner listens because it's a spiritual relationship. They both know what they're going through. Then they can go through the tides that come in their way. And then as they get older, the tides become less. The waves become smaller because they get used to each other more. You know what they say? The best is the mature wine. And the same with the relationship. After a while, you get so used to that person's faults that you're so comfortable. So comfortable. But you have to learn that early so that you can save the day. But most people, because there's no more spiritual upbringing anymore in people's lives, they suffer a lot. And when they suffer, they come to yoga to look for their peace. So good, the next relationship, thank God I was hopefully you find a better one. And in my case, I've seen so many over the years, and just last Wednesday, one had gone through a really bad divorce, through difficult marriage, all that, and now he's met this woman now already 4 or 5 years, and they're so peaceful. But he was careful. He said, I want to wait 5 years, and now he said, I'm going to marry her. I'm going to ask her to marry me finally. I felt so happy to hear, but he was careful, slowly this time, not rushing into it. I'm going to give it a good few years. And he gave it 5 years. And they're solid. Solid. Both spiritual, both love service, both love to help people. So the right kind of relationship. His first wife was very selfish, everything for me, what I can collect. So there was a little difficulty there. So instead of teaching her, he shouted at her, or she shouted at him for not having enough, and then everything went downhill. Do you see how it works? But if they both had the knowledge, probably would have saved, because I did see the ex-wife before, and she really was in love with her husband, till there was not enough money coming in. Interesting. Oh my God, we're nearly there. So, okay, now, Sutra, Sloka 19. when you see the stainless unity of God everywhere, you become established in Brahman, which means God, and rise above the constant changes of this world. In other words, this world is always going to change, but you rise above it. You rise above sorrow and joy. You watch it all. You just rise above it and watch it all. And that's what happens. And then when you do that, you can enjoy this life a little bit more because you're not so emotional and you're not so torn up and all this kind of anguish. Wow, who wants to live with that? Painful. I know, I was an expert. If you let go attachment to external things, you will delight in the bliss of Atman. Atman is your true self. Persistent meditation on the infinite brings a state of uninterrupted joy. I love this, it is so positive. If you let go attachment to external things, you will delight in the bliss of Atman, the true self within you. Persistent meditation on the infinite brings a state of uninterrupted joy. So, well, today pleasure, tomorrow pain, today one thing breaks, another thing breaks. You're still happy. You're still happy. Okay, what can we do? Okay, what can we do? You know, this is the way of the world. You're still joyful. Just find a solution to fix it. That's all. You look at everything without that personal emotion. You know, something goes, oh, it's broken, what am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. You get so agitated. So fix it. And if you can't, somebody else will call somebody who can. It's happened to me 3 times today, huh? And Patty, her partner, helped me fix 2 of those things. And the workman is sorting out the 3rd one. I got the phone call. All in a day's work. Thank God he was here. He saved me a fortune because I'd have to call somebody to fix my TV. I don't know what was wrong with it. My skybox wasn't working. I hadn't seen the news for 5 days. So I came and taught a half the class, came out and was sorted. People saw it. Do you see it? It's just happened at the right time, the right place. Everything gets sorted. When you don't put the emotion, it comes quicker. The energy is allowed to flow faster. When you're agitated, you block the flow, all right? You block it with agitation. And when you don't get agitated, it comes very quickly. And that's the difference. Sri Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras of Sri Patanjali tells you that, you know, when you have the knowledge, you are become like the farmer. You know how when they do irrigation, they have these irrigation gates, right? So certain seasons, they open the water and the water flows through. And other seasons, they close it. So it's like a farmer. You start to learn the obstacles in your way, and then you understand how to just open up those doors and allow the divine energy to irrigate you, you know, so that you function perfectly. And that's what the knowledge gives you. The water flows through you because the energy is everywhere, Raman is everywhere, so it comes through you. And you have an electrical circuit to receive it, which is your spinal column. And if you look at it, it is like a whole lot of wiring system. And guess what? Sometimes I really think there's like a string there, and we're like little puppets, and we receive it. And if we're smart, we listen to the highest voice, and the highest voice is love and peace. The highest voice is love and peace. So you will always stay in that gate of the highest voice, which is love and peace. Truth, knowledge, bliss, absolute. And when you stay there, when you have guilt in your heart, it makes you sick. So now you know you have to work with your mind and your mind so that you, why do I always feel guilty? And that's the psychology that you have to adapt to your life. Does it make sense? Is it making sense now, these scriptures?
Yeah.
That's why you have to, even though you have the knowledge, you still have to work with your body, mind, and intellect, as it said earlier on. And this is the we'll go through, this one's another positive one. 23, I'll read 23, 26, and I think we'll nearly finish this chapter then. Yes, then we will have finished. 23. While still in a human body, if you can stand fast and strong, amid the forces of desire and anger, amidst the forces of desire and anger. Notice those are the forces that overtake you. Desires, I have to have, I really want a relationship. Take a deep breath, you don't have one. Enjoy what you have. You know, that's what I really want. Take a deep breath, just enjoy it while you want it so much. You just really actually, people see you wanting it so much, they run a mile, they're scared. So relax, take your time, don't let the desire make you sick, enjoy your day. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the day. If you're alone, you can. You can be very happy. So this is one of the things, when you can stand fast, these desires will come, it's normal. But you stay still. You know what, you can come, you will pass, and tomorrow I'll be okay. It's just that now, these next 10 minutes, I really want it. So what do I do to work with myself? Take a few deep breaths, repeat, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. Sing, dance, do whatever you want. This time will pass, and then tomorrow when you get up in the morning, how come I felt that I really couldn't live without that yesterday? How odd. And today, I'm fine. Yesterday, I could kill myself if I didn't have it. Today, I get up, I'm fine. And once you start to live like that, you start to get... So then, surely you are a yogi destined for happiness. Because now you know this will pass, desire will pass, anger will pass, and those are the things that take you over. Just let it pass, let it come in, bear it, and tomorrow gone. You know, I always used to say, the one I loved was from the New Testament, and this too shall pass, and this too shall pass, and this too shall pass. And that's why, you know, whenever I was going through my worst periods of anger or desires, I would say, you know, tomorrow wake up and it'll pass. It will pass. And when I had my operation in December, the pain was so excruciating, and I said, by Friday, I'll be on my way home. It'll be gone. And you know what? It went. By just saying that, it went. By Friday, it's all going to be over. I'll be home, I'll be in my comfortable bed. I was home by Friday, in my comfortable bed. Do you know, it's like that. And I said, that went really fast. And this too shall pass. You don't dwell in it. You don't, oh, poor me, blah, 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 blah. Nonsense. Everybody goes through pains. No big deal. No big deal. This too shall pass. But if I let the desire, oh, I want the pain to go, take me over, I've had it. I need more Panadols and more Valiums and more whatever. And the doctor kept on offering, because they do. I go, no, thank you, doctor. No, I don't need it. Just give me the least dose, and if I can handle it, I don't want to put all that medicine, and I spend another 6 months trying to get the medicine out of my body, you know? So, are you sure you don't want more? You sure you don't want? Only the first 2 days. After that, cut right down. So, you know, and all this teaching is what helps you. And then I realized that while I was sick, I was actually very happy. You know, there was no unhappiness at all. My son came all the way from Hong Kong to see me. How wonderful is that? He left all his work and flew over. How wonderful is that? So, this is the non-attachment. And finally, lust and anger. This is 26. Lust and anger naturally drop away from those who successfully renounce attachments to the fruits of their actions. With their minds now calm and controlled, they easily realize their true self and enjoy the bliss of oneness with the divine or God. And that is liberation. And that is the end of the Yoga, Chapter 4, the Yoga of Renunciation. So I've just picked because it's very much repetition, and thanks to Ole, he keeps reminding me of that, so I can go a little bit faster. And so I decided just to pick a few, because the whole chapter is telling you the same thing. So if you want to go deeper into the Gita, keep reading that chapter, and then you go, oh wow, it's true, it is my desires, good or bad desires, but the strong desires that take away my peace is really true. It is really true. And it's really when I get so angry that it takes away my peace. It is really true. So I need to conquer those two things. And how do you conquer it? Focusing on your higher self. Persistent meditation. Did you hear it? Persistent meditation. Why meditation? Because when you're quiet, you start to hear yourself think. You start to know you are not this body, and you start to understand you're really not this mind, that you are occupying this life. And because you're occupying this body and this life for a very short period of time, you better make the most of it. And why not enjoy heaven on earth, as it says in the Our Father? And we'll finish off by saying the Our Father. Is that fair? Do you know it? Anybody knows it? Okay, then we'll say it. If you can sit straight. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.